started when voter suppression ran wild all over America. The voting rights bills died in the Senate. Polling places closed. We lost our right to vote.
This future doesn't have to be. You have the power to change it. Save democracy while you can.
Call your senator now.
Tell Daisy, we love her.
Democrats are set to take control of the U.S. Senate, House, and the White House.
This will go down as one of the most progressive administrations in American history.
God willing, everything is on the table.
You now can pass things without a filibuster threat. That's right.
Oh, you'll regret this, and you may regret it a lot sooner than you think.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
Welcome to the Ruthless Variety Program. I'm Josh Holmes alongside a comfortably smug and Michael Duncan. Welcome to the week, folks.
That is such a weirdo ad.
The worst ad I've ever
It's
seen.
very strange, like just puzzling. But I think, first of all, the main thing about that ad is it shows you how laser focused the Dems are on HR1 and SR1. They want federal takeover of elections. They want to do all their nonsense, ballot curing. They want to do ballot harvesting coast to coast. But here's the thing is, you had to have been able to find a better way to do it. Then what was that, like a John Travolta movie where he was like in the future? It was based on a Scientologist book.
I don't even
Battlefield Earth. Battlefield Earth.
Right.
Jesus.
It's considered like one of the worst films made. This
Ever.
ad is basically just like Battlefield Earth with the elf from the Lord of the Ring movies and Katy Perry.
Well, we're going to get into it. It's a Katy Perry, Orlando Bloom ad that was done for Represent Us, and we'll talk all about it here in a second because I know that Duncan in particular has got a lot to say.
Yes.
But first of all, hey, look, welcome to the week. We had a hell of a week last week.
That's right. We had, not only did we have great guests, we had a triple header.
Yeah.
We had Tucker Carlson, and like you instantly see the left jump on Tucker.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're still writing stories about the episode today.
And the thing is that they can't stop him. It was so hilarious. He was like, number one, I don't have a TV in my home, which is like one of the keys to having a happy life. Number two, he was like, I don't care. He said, what did he call? I think it was for Stelter. What did he call him? He called him like a eunuch or something like that.
Yeah, that's it.
Incredible. Yeah. Like he was like, I don't care what they say. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, he's got the number one show, cable news. Why would he give a care?
He could do pretty much whatever he wants and proved it on Friday. I want to give a special shout out. We've got a bunch of listeners in the JAG Corps who have been vocal with us and the military generally. I know that the Ruthless Variety Program's got a strong following. So wherever you are protecting us, folks, thank you for what you do. We'll keep sending you good stuff.
Yeah, particularly all the folks overseas. We love to see it. Thank you.
That might
Thank you
explain
so
some
much.
of our numbers because our international audience, it's mind-boggling. Like I think at this point, every country other than North Korea and Madagascar, folks,
Cuba.
Yeah, and tell your friends in Cuba, Madagascar, and North Korea to tune into the show. But I think it might be a lot of our folks overseas.
Let's just turn it on for somebody at Gitmo.
Which is where the COVID people were supposed to go.
Apparently.
Many people are saying
that's where the COVID people. We wouldn't have these kind of problems.
Amazing. But hey, so we have another action-packed episode today. Who's our guest?
Well, we got Senator Bill Hagerty, the great state of Tennessee. He's a first-termer, really smart guy, comes from the world of finance, got a lot of international exposure as ambassador to Japan and in the business world. He's got some thoughts to share. It was good, solid stuff. Once again, I think proving, we've got a whole crop of people on the bench time and time again. You listen to this interview, you're like, man, we got some smart folks. We got some really smart folks.
And not only that, today let me get into the first things first. We need to get into this whole like Stacey Abrams and the Dems evolution on voter ID.
Well,
this is shocking.
Before we even do the evolution, Smug, you gotta let Duncan do the Katy Perry.
Oh yeah.
This guy's been it's been hilarious to listen to him break this thing down.
So, you got to hear a snippet from this ad in the introduction to this Tuesday episode of the program. But I just want to set the scene for you a little bit here. So, Orlando Bloom and Katy Perry are in some sort of bunker underground in the future.
I mean, it's just the worst. It's so bad.
2055. you couldn't be blamed if you didn't recognize either of them. Of course, that was part of the ad was that they were Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom.
Yeah.
And that you were supposed to be like, oh, yes, Queen.
Oh, yes, you tell me what to do with my vote.
It wasn't exactly clear from having watched. I watched it a couple of times. They were wearing heavy makeup and look very old.
And like wigs. Like the idea is they're going to be haggard. The beauty of it is like the Dems voter base now. Well, it's basically just like corporations and neoliberals at the top calling the shots with Hollywood. They would be looking lovely. Like, are you kidding me? There's a reason they're in Hollywood.
So
you think they're gonna look post-apocalyptic? No,
no.
Look great.
The idea that they'd be underground fighting for the rest of us is insane. Like they'd be on Mars. Let's be serious.
Bingo.
But
what is this? Hold on. Before you even get into the product, what is represent us? I mean, ostensibly, it's got to be some outfit that's trying to get Democrats to cheat in every election.
Right. It's a one of this constellation of left-wing groups that pretend to care about.
Is it one of these
voting
dark
rights.
money groups?
It's one of these dark money groups.
Oh, weird. I thought they didn't like that.
That's
Yeah.
right. Shout out Sheldon Whitehouse.
I think they do
not gonna call him out.
publish who are their major donors.
What a garbage organization.
I'm not sure, but
voter ID. That's how controversial.
Right. So anyway, you got Orlando Bloom in heavy makeup and a fake beard on your TV screen, and he's telling you how he's got to send a message back.
Wait, should we
in
just
time.
play? Let's just play some of it.
Let's play it.
It's only a minute long. Let's play it.
Let's hope this works.
We've got to tell him.
The faux urgency
It's so terrible.
is so bad.
Fundamental purpose of our democracy is the freedom of our lives.
Oh wait, so I missed at the beginning. They throw Joe Manchin in it.
Yeah, Joe Manchin. So what they're doing is from their bunker in 2055, they're actually using some sort of time portal to hack into the TV screens on Times Square
Amazing.
in 2021. They're traveling back through time to transmit this message about how.
So in the future, time portals only work on TVs.
Apparently.
Is that
All right,
even
hold
more?
on.
Let's go back to it.
Keep playing.
You are our only hope. The America you know doesn't exist in our future. Democracy is dead. We have no voice. The regime watches our every move.
It started when voter suppression ran wild.
Wait, hold on. The regime watches our every move, so they're like broadcasting. The regime, you mean like corporate America, like the establishment, Hollywood elite,
Right.
like higher education,
Right.
like pretty much everything in power in the entire world. You mean
Right.
that establishment
I-
that's calling for the passage of S1?
Right.
I have to admit, I was wrong. So I thought after Trump, these people would kind of like lay back and not lose their minds. They've got the White House right now. They've got the House. They've got the Senate. And they're still like, democracy's about to die. It's like, what?
It's gonna die. Well, I mean, if it wasn't, what was it? The Ajit Pai that they told he was gonna kill.
Oh yeah, they
Murder?
told him like people are gonna die on net neutrality.
Net neutrality. Well, this is similar. Hold on, I'm gonna keep going.
Wild all over America. The voting rights bills died in the Senate. Polling places closed. We lost our right to vote.
This future doesn't have to be. You have the power to change it. Save democracy while you can.
Call your senator now.
Tell Daisy we love her.
I don't even. Huh? All right, Doug.
Okay.
What's the deal
All right.
with this?
Okay. All right. So if you're very confused why a British man is screaming at you to save democracy in America, you're not alone. I was very confused in watching this ad why this British person from the future was traveling back in time to hijack TVs in Times Square to tell us our democracy's at stake.
Well, you know what? Honestly, so here's my explanation for that. Whenever democracy is actually threatened, Britain's like, America save us. Like, how many times?
But it's this whole thing is offensive on so many levels, obviously. But the one that really offended me, as sort of a sci-fi and a time-traveling nerd, is at the end they close down this ad and they say, "Tell Daisy we love her."
Yeah, what the hell's that mean?
Okay, well, so first of all, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Wait, weren't they an item? Am I wrong in this?
Yes, right. So they have.
Do they have any kids?
A daughter, or they're engaged. They're engaged, I believe, and their daughter's name is Daisy. But here's the thing: it's not like they're time travelers to the future. and they abandoned Daisy in 20. They exist in 2021. This is just a message
So
back
what
in
happened
time.
to Daisy?
What happened
Well,
to
you
Daisy?
tell Daisy you love her. You exist in 2021.
Why don't you tell Daisy?
Maybe Joe Manchin killed Daisy. That's the thing.
Yeah, it makes no
Manchin
sense.
killed Daisy in a turn of events.
Yeah, a shocking turn of events. Joe Manchin was like, you know what? I'm just gonna kill children. That's my thing.
This is the dumbest ad in the history of ads.
In the history of ads.
But here, like, if you just take a step back and you're like, okay, obviously it's created to be hyperbolic and like get people's attention and whatnot.
Right.
But they actually say stuff like this, like democracy dies if you can't get this
over.
stuff done.
Yeah.
But then you like open it up and you're like, oh, okay, so that means if you have to use an ID to vote, that democracy dies with it. Or if there's not some like paid Democratic operative that rolls through apartment high rises, taking your ballots and making you fill them out and delivering them at the box, that's when democracy dies.
Yeah. So I think one of the overlapping problems here is the Dems are out of ideas. They're just playing the hits.
Yeah.
They're like, how did
Yeah, it seems like
we
it.
told everyone democracy is about to be destroyed by Trump, and they donated to us. Like, the untold number of grifter PACs on the left were basically telling wine moms, if you don't give me your credit card number right now and donate, democracy is gonna be gone.
Well, and that's fine when Donald Trump is president. That raises them a lot of money, but they couldn't give up that dopamine hit, right? Like they needed that. They needed that cash. And so now they've become, the boy who cried Jim Crow.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And that's what this ad is the boy who cried Jim Crow.
That's right.
Saying, if you don't pass this stuff, democracy's literally over. Not you have to show an ID for the polls. There will be no voting in the future of America unless you pass. You just think about that. I can't even complete the sentence without laughing.
I don't even know
But
how
if you
to-
don't pass H.R. 1, democracy will literally end in America.
Daisy was our last line of defense, and Manchin just takes her out in the future.
Unless American taxpayers pay for elections and election
That's
ads,
the other egregious thing.
democracy ends. So, break this back down. Again, this is all a protection against the state.
Right.
Right? Okay, so the state then pays for the
For the election. That's how we preserve democracy, by having our government pay for our elections.
Okay, and then the state is also in charge of picking up the ballots. Right?
Oh, yes, right.
Oh, yeah. Right. No, I can see where you'd want to protect that from people. That's as the end of democracy.
It makes no sense. It makes
Holy
no sense.
cats.
This is the thing. And why I really wanted to play this video is that it comes out at a time where a lot in the Democratic Party are evolving on their position on these so-called voter suppression bills.
It's so funny.
The Stacey Abramses of the world, the Raphael Warnocks, the people who called it Jim Crow a few months ago. And you'll remember on this podcast, what did we say at the time? That this is not a debate. These people are liars. These people are charlatans. This is not a debate. It is a war. Do not debate these people. We are not in the realm of facts.
And then they drag weak-ass corporate America into all of it, like bullying him, telling him it's all racist. Republicans are all racist.
Yeah, I mean, look at what happened in Georgia. Is you had all these companies, or you had all these CEOs on this like call. I think it was like 75 CEOs or something like that. Again, the hilarious part is like a half dozen were at Augusta watching the Masters, being like, "Okay, we'll join in on this boycott of Georgia." They pull the All-Star game. Every local business in Atlanta is like, what the heck? I was hoping.
Well, they've all walked it back now.
Yeah.
Well, see, and that's the thing is, on one side you have this ad with Orlando Bloom and Katy Perry saying democracy will be over if we don't pass that. And then at the same time, we have Aaron Blake in the Washington Post playing cleanup for Stacey Abrams with a new analysis piece that's out today that says, and the headline is, Stacey Abrams and the Democrats' evolution on voter ID.
Oh, an evolution.
It's an evolution.
We're evolving. We're evolving.
It's an evolution. It's not a flip flop.
No,
right?
not a flip flop.
That's the difference. When it's a Republican, they'll say flip flop. When it's a Dem, it's an evolution.
No, it's an because everything's an evolution because they think more.
Yeah,
They
right?
do.
Hey, trust the science, folks.
They think better.
You have to
They've
trust
just
the
been
science. It's an
presented.
evolution.
They were presented with new information between now and 4 months ago when they said this is Jim Crow, white supremacy, and racism. That's the president of the United States said that.
I mean, this is so mind-boggling to me because look, this is current. They're actually voting on this thing this week.
Yeah.
Right? But since that time, the president of the United States went out and said, this is Jim Crow 2.0. president said this, right? Before that, Stacey Abrams, Raphael Warnock, and everybody else were talking about boycotting any state that were to implement these kind of voter laws. Well, he found out the people of Georgia really like this kind of voting law, and so did everybody else across. I saw a poll today that showed like 80-some-odd% of Americans think voter ID is absolutely what is necessary to do. So guess what? Evolution happens.
Oh, wow, they evolved.
And that's the thing is, so it was an evolution, and they trusted the science, and by science we mean polls and focus groups.
So that poll,
political science,
that poll they're referring to there is the Monmouth Poll, which says that 91% of Republicans support voter ID, 87% of independents, 62% of Democrats, 77% of white voters, and look at this, 84% of non-white voters.
Unbelievable.
So it's just the white liberal women who live on the coast, who tweet for a living, who say all of this is Jim Crow. And they found a champion in Stacey Abrams who decided to lie to all these CEOs. Well, congratulations, guys.
Yeah, you own it.
You.
And
You own
honestly, to me especially, what is so offensive is I don't know where the conspiracy theory came from that Dems created, being like, if you're a person of color, you can't get an ID. You can't use a computer.
It's so offensive.
Like, are you serious, dude? Like, how, have you ever met this? That shows you it's a bubble of these coastal liberals like Sheldon Whitehouse, who in their like all white clubs, being like, you know what? How can we try to take over elections? We can say, you know what? People of color can't get IDs. And they've been running with it. They've had no proof to back that up, and they've been pushing it. And now that they see the poll numbers, they're like, oh, wait a minute. Let's just sweep that all under the rug.
So now Stacey Abrams and the Democrats are trying to, basically find what they would consider a quote-unquote compromise on voting rights. Again, mind you, they called this Jim Crow.
Yeah.
Now they'd like to compromise on something that they said was Jim Crow. It almost makes you think it was not real from the beginning.
Yep.
But that's an aside point. But let me just quote here from this Aaron Blake article in the Washington Post. Part of that, undoubtedly, is this is talking about how they're sort of evolving on their position. Part of that, undoubtedly, is Democrats trying to focus on the art of the possible, while not wanting to look.
Those pragmatic Democrats.
Not wanting to look like they have abandoned their past principles. Past principles being, we called this Jim Crow. I'll notice that Aaron Blake didn't mention that they called it Jim Crow anywhere in his cleanup article.
Of course not.
At any point. So their past principles are that they called it Jim Crow. Okay, but I digress. I'll continue. Part of it could also be the fact that codifying such a federal proposal could actually reduce the barriers to voting in certain states. And a later line here is, this is my favorite. It's just complete chef's kiss on the entire thing. There is an emerging school of thought that even stricter voter ID rules may not be as suppressive as many Democrats once were.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, weird.
An emerging school of
It's
thought.
a new school of thought.
Yeah, it's funny when you come up with this idea and get the media to run with it, that people of color can't get IDs, and you have no proof for it. How do you clean that up? Normally, as a journalist, your job is to hold people accountable who push that. Nope, it's evolving.
No, it's an emerging school
It's an
of
emerging
thought.
school of thought, folks. Everything we told you about that was an absolute lie. We had no proof to back it up. But listen, you shouldn't be mad at us. This is an evolving school of thought.
Yeah, no, we called it Jim Crow. Had the president of the United States do that from the presidential podium, and it turns out it's not. In fact, it actually expands voting. It isn't as, quote, suppressive
It's
as many
unreal.
Democrats once warned. Who could have guessed when, 75 million Republicans could have told you pretty loud and clear.
Anyway, congratulations to all those CEOs. Good job.
Hats off, fellas.
Hats off,
Really
fellas.
great.
Really great work. Taking a hook, line, and sinker from Stacey Abrams, a liar and a charlatan.
Absolute,
She's still not conceded, right?
Great work.
Still great. And I love to see the moonwalk that Raphael Warnock does on all this stuff, right? If you listen to him now, check out some quotes lately. It looks like he's pushing the Republican side, right? He's like, oh, voter ID? No, I don't think I ever said anything about that. Boycotts? No, not me. Not me. Whatever, pal.
And that's the thing is, Stacey Abrams had that op-ed that they let her stealth edit. What was that? Was that WAPO? Was that NYT?
It was the USA Today.
USA Today.
Yeah.
They let her stealth edit because, hey, There are emerging schools of thought. That's what happens.
It's just nuanced. They just evolved, okay?
Totally.
All right. So here's another thing that we got to bring up. I just want to quickly touch on this because we're all Twitter fans in this particular program. But there was a new study, I think Pew actually did this, that Twitter users are actually D plus 15, meaning Democrats outrank Republicans by 15%.
Right.
Which kind of puts it in line with like Hawaii and Vermont, like the most liberal states in the union in terms of being out of balance, the sequencing of who's on Twitter. So, but all of the journalists are on it, right? So
That's
it's like this self-fulfilling prophecy where everything that they, like this particular thing with Aaron Blake,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's like, well, this is just getting the talking points to the folks.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Point is, it's not real life.
It's not only is it not real life, the actual number of people that make up Twitter that are creating the content that these reporters pretend is the prevailing opinion of anybody is infinitesimally small. 10% of Twitter users post 92% of all of the tweets, and they are D plus 43.
Shout out to the conservatives out there who are part of the 10%.
And
Absolutely holding the line.
That's
it's
like
the land of the wolves.
That's like the Alamo.
And we've talked about this content mill before on the podcast, where basically what happens is, let's say there's some Republican that the liberals hate, right? And they say something, and a news outlet who's desperate for clicks, right, writes an article in a negative light.
It's
about
almost
that.
always DeSantis, by the way.
About DeSantis. Let's say it's about DeSantis. Then there's a follow-up story about how DeSantis trends as users see that he's a bad person, right? And then they get to write another article. And now they're writing it's like a nesting doll of bullshit to a smaller and smaller degree. Yeah. We're talking about like 10 people. And we're writing whole articles about their reaction to things. These are the biggest tastemakers in all of politics.
Well, but it also is what the entirety of their subscribership ultimately.
That's right. It's also why I love being on Twitter, because I'm here for conflict.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's nothing I love more than being surrounded by an ocean of loser liberals just tweeting resistance bullshit all day. I love it.
It's beautiful.
I always used to take such pride in watching Smug when I was kind of in the inside a little bit, and didn't have the freedom that I now have watching Smug just take it to the enemy every day.
It's a beautiful thing, that freedom. But hey, and what do? We joined forces. Now we got Ruthless.
Now here we are.
Essentially just fighting the left.
What a wonderful program. Did you guys see the Supreme Court decision?
I did.
That was on the NCAA.
Yes.
A 9-0 decision that represents a landmark victory for college players and a significant moment in the history of college athletics. So what it was ultimately about is whether or not these kids can get paid.
Right.
And forever, the NCAA has not only ruled that they can't get paid, they also sanction them and kick them out of athletics altogether if they're getting just like the smallest. If they sign an autograph and get $25 for it, they used to be banned, right?
Yeah.
So,
but they can sell your jersey, right? Just not with your name on the back of it.
Totally.
And they can keep all the money for that.
They can do all of that.
Right.
And they can do big publicity tours. And they can put these kids through the ringer in terms of like marketing them for tickets, marketing them from, everything that they could sell at that university. And the kids never got a darn thing. Well, I guess those days are over.
It's fantastic. I love it because higher education is one of the greatest cartels in America.
Yep.
These are schools that'll send you an email about how they desperately need your $50 for the Alumni Association and trying to sell you on tickets to go see the football team. Meanwhile, they've got like $100 million endowment, and then they won't pay these kids.
And then they charge $60,000 for a kid for a kid to go to school
right.
too.
And now they're going to turn around to the government and be like,
and my
these student loans, I don't know what you want us to do about it.
Oh, it's these student loans.
Oh,
jeez. You know what you should do? You should have taxpayers pay those salaries.
Yeah. How about we tax the endowments? How about we tax all your endowments? Wouldn't that be something?
That sounds like a great idea. That sounds like a great idea. But you know what? The first piece of this is liberating these college kids to be able to, at very least, control their own identities.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Control their ability to market themselves.
Yes. And selfishly, look, I great for them. I'm very excited at the prospect of getting a new NCAA football video game.
Oh yeah, that's where it's at.
When I was in college and that was our favorite game to play.
It's the best,
right? You can do the whole Heisman mode where you start from a young 18-year-old prospect, and at least what I loved to do was like get an RPO offense going.
Oh yeah, totally. But you could recruit and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Or maybe like set up like a triple wishbone, like take Navy's playbook and just like run it 70 times a game.
I love it.
It's just the best.
And then when I was a coach, I used to listen. I used to listen to offers in the off season. That was another part I liked about it.
Well, that really separates the wheat from the chaff in that game. If you're willing to do all the work in the off season, that's how you really thrive.
Bring back the video game, EA Sports. Let's do it. All right, we have a very special Hollywood Henn component here. Henn?
Yes, we have a couple stories that were flagged to us by our listeners, which we're very excited about. The first that got a lot of people chatting on Twitter was A-Rod was spotted hanging out with Ben Affleck's ex, Lindsay Shookus. I think that's how you pronounce her name.
Shookus.
A little unclear. At her birthday party on Saturday. In the clip, A-Rod is seated right beside Lindsay at an intimate backyard gathering where someone performed a magic routine for them. So not sure about that part of it.
Lamest date.
But bottom line is A-Rod is now with Ben Affleck's ex, while his ex is with Ben Affleck, and now it's all just
musical chairs,
just
Disgusting.
music, just grossness, just grossness everywhere.
So it's confirmed they're an item.
Well, so their reps
together.
Their reps said they've been friends for 15 years. I mean, the classic. Oh, we're just friends. We've been friends for forever, but they were spotted together.
I like the move.
So.
I like the move. Look, I Smug has converted me entirely to an Affleck guy here.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna have A-Rod's back on this, but I like the move. He's trying to fight fire with fire, right? The guy steals his girl, so he's like, I don't know, I'm gonna try to hurt him.
Absolutely.
If he shows up with Jennifer Garner, that's another situation.
Oh, that would be the ultimate move.
I think that would be the only if he wanted to fight fire with fire, that's the only way to do it.
Maybe he's just climbing the ladder.
I think he comes off
Baby
as weak
steps.
here. Like, this is pathetic. Like, sound advice, the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. If A-Rod was living his best life, that's the best revenge. But it shows, like, he's been a disappointment as a Yankees fan. I can tell you, the guy's always been a disappointment. And this is such a disappointment. It shows that Affleck is like, in his head.
Would you feel that same way if he showed up with Jennifer Garner?
See, that would be a power move.
That would
power
be
move.
Absolutely.
Jennifer Garner would never hang out with A-Rod.
Like,
That's the difference.
Former girlfriend is different than baby mama. If A-Rod did that, wow, that's a nuke.
So if you're listening, A-Rod, there's the target, pal.
I think he lost a lot of people with his makeup line. I don't know how you really recover from that.
Yeah. Well, apparently her too. She went with the beer drinking, cigarette smoking guy.
Right.
A real dude.
Instead of someone who's
a makeup line.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it actually makes sense if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What else we got?
Duncan just doesn't even know what to make of any of this.
I don't care about celebrities really.
What? That's not true. You got so worked up about Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom.
I did, but that's only because it intersected politics. But
no, it was really because of the time travel.
Yeah, right. I'm a nerd. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
That got him the most upset. Nothing else. It was the like time travel inconsistency.
It was a continuity mistake. Clearly, I don't know how you could make that ad and not notice it.
The next quick story was flagged to us by I was that guy at Monsters Inc. Lafleur on Twitter.
Oh, nice. Okay,
that's his name.
Oh, yeah.
He wanted us to know that yesterday on Father's Day, it was confirmed that Nick Cannon's he's going to have his fourth child in less than a year.
Hey-o.
Wow.
Like, that is Father's
seventh
Day.
child in all, fourth child in less than a year.
Wow.
Virile.
It's a lot going on there.
That is a lot going on. So, do we have a count? Like, is there twins here?
There's one set of twins and then two singles.
And obviously, we're talking about 3 different women.
Yeah, I believe so.
So you'd heard all these stories about what was going to happen during lockdown, but Nick Cannon apparently did capitalize on the situation.
He's like, "What's up?"
Yeah.
I lost track of him after Mariah. Is he just like a host now? Like, what is he? Yeah. Is he still a thing?
I have no
I guess
idea.
is my point.
I mean, he must be.
Well, he has kids with Mariah, right?
Yeah, twins with her.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Man's a twin guy.
Yeah, I know. It's wild.
Jeez.
It's impressive.
Look out, ladies.
It's quite the Father's Day. I don't know how you celebrate that when you are a father of 7.
Conference calls.
Right.
Probably
Zooms. A lot of
bunch
Zooms.
Conference calls. Zooms.
FaceTime hangs.
That's amazing. Like I got 7 kids. Like we gotta conference them in. I can't be at any one location. Are you serious?
I feel like it tracks with Smug's like summer of the DILF or whatever.
It's kind of
whatever.
The DGAF dude.
Or whatever.
Henneberg.
No, not the. I couldn't remember
That's shocking.
what the initials are.
Whoa.
What are the initials?
Oh, I can't
It's
wait for your
DGAF
family to hear
dudes.
this.
No, Mom, I did not mean it like that.
So this actually reminds me of a discussion I was having the other day where I was like, listen, if you're not a
About
father
DILFs?
on Father's Day, you can still have a great time. It's not a dad bod, it's a father figure. You keep that in mind.
There it is.
Eyes on the prize, folks.
There it is. Listen, I still am reeling from Henneberg's description, but she's right. But she's right. And
I forgot, and I just assumed.
I think he did the D.
Don't give a F.
Don't give a F.
Got it.
DGAF.
That's
for
way
young
too
listeners.
many
Yeah,
acronyms
not
for me.
DILF, but it's probably the same actually if you think about it.
It's just the summer of men. I feel like a lot of these stories are about men kind of winning in life.
Yeah, dudes rock.
It kind of feels like
It feels that way. I'm just waiting for a woman to give me a win this summer. It's clearly not Katy Perry. It's not J-Lo because she's with the loser.
J-Lo.
I don't know who it is. I'm just
might
waiting.
Be J-Lo.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think her being with Ben Affleck is like a win.
Absolute win.
I could see how it's a win for you guys,
Absolutely.
but like, there's got to be somebody else out there who can give me a win this summer.
Yeah. We'll keep searching.
We'll keep searching.
Those
Those are the 2 updates I have for you. Very quick and to the
Oh,
point.
wonderful Hollywood Hen segment. Thank you, Hen, for joining us.
Yep.
You know what I want to jump into very briefly is number one, shout out to the Minions, our listeners, grassroots conservatives who popped up with pointing out there was a story recently coming out of Rhode Island. It was Go Local, which is a local publication, and they caught up with the most corrupt, two-faced senator probably in U.S. history, Sheldon Whitehouse, and asked him about. And this is the crazy thing is they broke this story like years ago. No mainstream media covered this. They followed up. They get him on video, asking. So Sheldon Whitehouse belongs to an all-white beach club in Rhode Island. All-white beach club.
Weird.
He's out there every day being like, Republicans are racists and voter ID is Jim Crow and you name it. He's a member of an all-white club in Rhode Island, and they got him on video. They asked him, they're like, okay, so what's changed? So apparently they asked him a couple years ago, are you a member of this all-white club? He knew it was wrong. The smoking gun is he transferred his ownership shares to his wife, being like, oh, yeah.
That's great.
That's totally okay, right? So now his
scumbag move.
So now his wife is like one of the like major, equity holders in this all-white club, and they ask him, they're like,
that's
hey,
by the way, that's such a dark money move.
It is.
Totally.
Dude, absolutely. And so they ask him, they're like, so are you still a member of this club, all-white club? What's the story here? And his response, quote, it's a long tradition in Rhode Island, and there are many of them. And I think we just need to work our way through the issues. Thank you.
Wow.
What?
That was a direct quote.
Wait, what? The issues? I mean, there seems to be one pretty glaring issue.
I love how he used the collective we. Like, we're all in.
Oh, yeah.
We
all of us.
All of us members of this club.
All of us Rhode Islanders.
And I think it's so telling because this goes right back to the discussion we just had about how Dems are in an evolving school of thought on voter ID when they came up with this made-up BS about how people of color can't get IDs. They push all these ideas. They're not grounded in fact, right? These are extremely wealthy, comfortable people literally living on the coast,
right,
who are trying to tell the rest of America how to live, and if you disagree with them, you're a racist. Meanwhile, hey, listen, being a member of an all-white club, it's a tradition in Rhode Island.
They can't possibly relate. These people don't know poor people.
Nope.
They don't know poor white people. They don't know poor black people. They don't know poor Hispanic people. They don't know anybody poor. But yet, because of the Democratic constituency, they feel like they have a full codlock on African American votes, which is so ridiculous. It's so absurd. It's why Republicans, by the way, are gaining every year in African American vote. Same with Hispanic vote, is because they actually, guys like Sheldon Whitehouse, think that they can just sort of like impress their views upon minority populations in this country, and that they somehow just go with it.
And part of that is the media is very complicit in this. So when this story originally dropped a couple of years ago, no mainstream outlet covered it, just local
Can you
news.
imagine? Think for a second if Mitch McConnell belonged to an all-white club.
All-white
Can you imagine?
Think about that. Like, think
Unbelievable.
about what I mean, they'd be calling for his resignation.
AOC would have a statement put out.
There would be constant coverage on all of the networks about controversy arose today in the U.S. Capitol. I mean, this gets nothing.
Yeah. And here's the other thing is, so now he is saying point blank, being a member of an all-white club is a long tradition in Rhode Island. There are many of them, and I think we just need to work our way through the issues. Journalists.
There are many of what?
Do your job.
What's the issue?
Do your
Dude,
job.
What is the issue we're going to collectively work through? Your owner? Do you need help canceling your credit card?
That's the thing is, so he transfers these shares, and his wife is now one of the like major owners with stakes in this club.
Wait,
and,
so they
so
actually-
you're acting like you're powerless. You're
Yeah.
powerless. Like, hey, we just need to work through this.
So is he essentially saying that, like, oh, we don't have any black people because no black people want to be a part of our membership?
Is
that essentially what he's saying?
He's trying to play the like. This is something we just need to work through, folks. It's not like I have.
So
a
he's
say
not
in
even
this.
saying that. He's just saying we have to work through it.
We just got to work through this, folks.
Listen, if you're in Rhode Island, we need some information here.
Yeah.
You guys need to tell us what this is all about. Because here's the thing. The club itself, whatever. I don't know anything about this club. But what I do know is that Sheldon Whitehouse is the most hypocritical senator that has perhaps ever taken the oath of office.
Yes.
This is a guy who decries dark money, but is a sole recipient of far more than anybody else thinks. That it's basically what he says is trying to fight more dark money.
Dude, this is a guy who says Mitch McConnell and all these Republicans are owned by billionaires. The dude's only raised $200,000 from small dollar donors. He's raised like 5 times as much money from corporate and leadership PACs as he's ever raised from average working class people. This guy doesn't have a leg to stand on. And now he belongs to an all-white beach club. This is the same guy who was reading the yearbook of a high school kid in the Supreme Court hearing of
Boof.
of
What's the
Kavanaugh.
definition of boof?
Yeah, holier than thou, like he's better
that's
than all
right.
of us. Dude,
Yeah.
fuck this guy.
Yeah, no, but he's got an army of Karens
Yep.
that are like all over the internet, right? This is my
Unbelievable.
favorite one. This Amy Vanderpool, who she tweeted today, in case you were wondering what this latest GOP smear attempt against Sheldon Whitehouse is all about, I assure you it's not about his exclusive beach club membership. She doesn't say all white, but that's apparently what it is.
Yep.
It's about McConnell trying to stop Whitehouse's bill to ban dark money from politics.
We made him do it.
Incredible.
Oh, it's Mitch McConnell's
Incredible.
fault. It's Mitch McConnell's fault.
The way that we told you folks that Dem dark money was like 2 to 1,
Right.
if not more.
Right.
They have a Swiss billionaire pumping dark money into elections here in the U.S.
Right.
Sheldon Whitehouse is quiet. When asked about his membership in an all-white private club, he's quiet about that. Oh, it's a tradition. But you better believe he's always out there being like, well, you see, the problem here is Republicans are Jim Crow 2.0. The hypocrisy is beyond staggering, and journalists, you need to do your job.
Do your job.
I want to see him chase down an elevator the same way that you chase down Republicans going into an elevator, and ask him about if that's normal. Is that okay? Being a member of an all-white club that your wife has a very significant stake in a position to bring about change. But no, they won't.
Well,
they won't.
I want to highlight one other piece of hypocrisy. You know this guy Padilla who took Kamala's spot
Oh, I do.
in the Senate?
Oh, I do.
This guy's quickly becoming the dumbest member of the United States Senate.
That's a title.
He's going to take the title from Mazie Hirono.
Yeah, there's another senator.
No,
I
you're
think.
right. That's a battle.
I think
tough.
I think there's a still dumber senator, but let's continue.
Well, so anyway, this guy is all up in arms about Georgia, Raffensperger, right? So it's like somebody who was the patron saint of the left a few months ago the Secretary of State of Georgia, has done what secretaries of states do, which is clean up their registration rolls. You know, I mean, that's just like part of the job.
That's how
when
it
people
works.
move, when people like commit felonies, you know, that kind of thing. Like you purge names from the rotor rolls. So Georgia does this like regular thing, and of course CNN does a big story on it, right? Georgia removes 100,000 names from voter registration rolls, like a absolutely completely non-event. But they've made it a huge deal because, of course, it's all about Republicans trying to suppress the vote. So this guy writes, he tweets, "The assault on voting rights continues unabated." Unabated.
Unabated.
So I was like, all right, well, let's just like look at that for a second. I forget what this guy's background is. Oh, he was the former Secretary of State in California.
Yeah, it's so weird. I wonder if he's ever had to purge voter rolls of non-active or moved voters.
No, so he looked and was like, oh, L.A. County, this is 2019, right? 2 years ago. When he was Secretary of State, they purged 1.5 million.
Amazing.
Million.
Because none of this
inactive
is
voter
real.
rolls.
None of this is real, right? The biggest spreaders of misinformation in our country are these Democrats and their lackeys in the media who will reframe any story, the most banal thing that happens in our politics constantly, as something nefarious, as something Jim Crow 2.0. It's absurd. It's the same thing with Stacey Abrams when she's like, oh, you know, they want to change the hours for early voting. And of course, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution found that on the balance it expanded early voting. But that doesn't matter. What also doesn't matter is that Stacey Abrams herself cut early voting. She sponsored the bill to do it when she was in the Georgia State Legislature. But whether it's Padilla or Stacey Abrams, nothing they say ever has to be actually true.
Well, and they suffer zero consequence.
None.
Right? They just continue on.
No, their accounts aren't locked on social media for spreading disinformation. You know, we don't have a national discussion about, you know, how they're aiding our foreign enemies. No, about how they're undermining democracy. No, they're just allowed to lie.
Which, by the way, the one thing I don't want to go into it a big topic, but one of the things that we should have probably talked about is how Biden actually froze Ukrainian military aid.
Oh yeah, weird.
Right?
I mean, what? They impeached
They
Trump.
impeached Trump for this.
They impeached Trump for this.
Right.
And he so I mean, look, the background's not unimportant here, right? I mean, the whole discussion was about whether Trump held a relief package that would allow Ukraine to defend itself against Russia in order to extract information about Hunter Biden and this work that he did for this company and whether or not he was under investigation.
Right.
And they were trying, like, apparently what the allegation was is they were trying to get Oppo, right?
Right.
So what's it now? So why is this the same withholding of a military package? What now?
Yeah.
What is that?
I don't know. It's like, you know, when Biden took the sanctions off of Nord Stream and gave Vladimir Putin, you know, this pipeline.
Yeah, while shutting down Keystone XL here.
That was a nice little entree for his summit, and now withholding this security for Eastern Europe is like a little doggy bag, a little to go for old Putin.
But nobody's talking about it.
No one cares.
We literally shut down this country for 3 months to talk about impeaching the president of the United States, where no business, by the way, while the coronavirus was being developed in China.
Yes.
And nothing. Now nothing. They don't even talk about it.
Nope.
Oh, my Lord. Folks, this is why you got to tune into the Ruthless Variety program, because you probably wouldn't even know that.
That's
right.
Thing.
All right, Summer of Violence.
It continues. That was my guess. Is you had a lot of journalists, etc., being like, "Oh, this is going to be like a summer of love. Roaring 20s are back. It's going to be amazing."
I wanted it. I was rooting for it.
What was
well, he loves love. Michael loves love.
Rumspringa.
Yeah.
It's called the Rumspringa. It's when, you know, the Amish kids get to go away from the closed society to have, you know, a guilt-free time of drinking and
excess.
Yeah.
Nope. Summer of violence.
It's a summer of violence. It's so sad.
So looting cases, apparently. I mean, look, I don't think I'm breaking any news. If you spend any time on the internet, it's like one video after another of some like outfit anywhere in any city in America getting looted, getting rioted, having people being beaten up on the streets and whatever. I mean, New York apparently is just suffering. Just suffering.
Yeah, they have close to twice the unemployment rate as the average of the rest of the country.
Oh, man. Yeah, so new data shows that there were 118 arrests made in the Bronx during the worst of the looting in June. I mean, since then, the NYPD and the Bronx DA have dismissed almost all of the cases.
Amazing.
They've dismissed them.
What are we doing?
18 cases remain open. I mean, they just threw them out. We saw the video clip that I'm sure a ton of listeners watched about San Francisco where the guy marched into the Walgreens.
Oh, yeah.
And just filled a bag. And the security guard standing there filming him like, what am I going to do? I don't have any cop help here. And he just walks out with it. And then, like, there's nothing. No charges.
Right.
Nothing.
Well, I think it's also a liability thing, right? Like the security guard can't actually apprehend, can only record.
No, yeah, he can only document the dang thing.
Yeah.
And I guess he tried to do whatever. But when you have a city council that has announced that it's no longer prosecuting petty theft, what do you do?
Right. Right. It's anarchy.
It's anarchy.
It's anarchy, and these libs that run these cities will allow it, as long as you allow it by voting for them or not convincing your neighbors to oppose them.
I mean, it's really interesting to me. So I think, today is going to be the primary being held in New York City for the mayor. And the number one issue for voters, crime. While the top-down Dems are being like, no, we shouldn't prosecute crime. That isn't a concern. It seems like the people who are actually living through it are very concerned.
Well, it's why you have the voting results that we report frequently on the program.
Well, it's the exact, it's the exact same thing as voter ID, where they say, black and brown voters, they can't possibly get an ID. In fact, it's racist. It's Jim Crow. 84% in the Monmouth Poll. Black and brown voters support voter ID, right?
They're making up a reality that doesn't exist. And it's more so now than any time in any of our lifetimes. It's more so now than any point in American history where you have people who are in charge, the purveyors of information in this country, are entirely disconnected from the American people.
It's the Twitterification of public policy.
Amazing.
It's what we talked about earlier on the podcast.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, so 20 years ago, sort of when I got into politics, there's a lot of talk about inside the beltway mentalities.
Yes.
Right? People who've been surrounded entirely with people who make their living in government, and they sort of self-reaffirm all their suspicions about what's wrong with America without actually talking to any Americans.
Yeah.
It's when a politician, a longtime incumbent, lost, they would say, well, they got stuck in the beltway mentality.
Mm-hmm.
That is now everything in the media. It has nothing to do with the beltway. It has everything to do with if you get your information on CNN, on MSNBC, from the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Associated Press, anywhere in corporate media today, you don't know what the hell's happening in this country. You really don't.
Right.
And the results ultimately are in all of these voting that we've seen, all of these elections that we've seen over the last 3 months. I mean, people are voting Republican hand over fist.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
It's happening.
You love to see it.
You love to see it.
Hey, libs, keep reading Twitter and thinking that's how the world works.
Yep.
We love it.
And also, there's a variant coming.
Yeah, the Delta.
Yeah, there's a variant. It's all kinds of varianting.
Yes.
That's
Stay home. Read Twitter.
Triple mask.
Lose elections.
Yeah, and order your groceries and don't go out. For the love of God, don't go out. Smug, I think we've done it. I think we got to get to this interview.
Let's do it.
All right, so this is a fascinating interview that I think you all love with Senator Haggerty. I want to welcome to the program Senator Bill Hagerty of Tennessee. Welcome to the program, sir.
It's great to be on with you, Josh.
Listen, you won a nail biter by 27 points last year, elected to your first term in the Senate. What do you think of the place so far?
Well, it's a challenging environment that we walked into, Josh. The fact that the 45th president isn't in office is not something I was expecting. I fully plan to be, his closest ally in the Senate as we continue to get things done, not playing defense every day, all day long. The 50-50 Senate is not something I anticipated either. What happened in Georgia was a shock to me. I cannot believe that Georgia would have elected two Democrat senators, particularly as liberal as the ones that they selected.
Right.
It really, that really does surprise me coming from, a border state and knowing a lot of people in Georgia. That's not something I expected either. So we're in an environment where we have the very slimmest margin in favor of the Democrats right now. It's 50-50 here in the Senate. That has, because they won the White House, that means that the gavel passed to them. And the power sharing arrangement really has turned into a power grabbing operation. If you ask me, it's just amazing how bold the Democrats are in terms of trying to behave as though they have some type of mandate when they absolutely do not.
Yeah, it really is something. I mean, they walked into the place, I think, with more of a head of steam than they had, at least when I remember when they had unified government in 2009 and 10. They seemed like they were a little bit more withdrawn. This time around, you'd think that they had 75 Senate seats.
That behavior is certainly reflected in their attitude, but that's not the case at all, which means it's more important now than ever that Republicans hold the line, that we push back at every turn, and that we find those Democrats that are in states that don't care for this far left agenda, and we really press them hard. I've been working my heart out to make it clear, how radical some of these policies are. I've been going on, I've been doing airtime in West Virginia. Why is that? Because West Virginians need to know what is happening here in Washington, because I don't think they're going to support the type of leftist policies that the Democrat Party is now pushing through.
Yeah, well, I imagine Joe Manchin appreciates you going on in West Virginia and talking about it, because he's certainly getting an absolute beating on the national level from liberals who are upset that they feel like he's holding their agenda up, which is absolutely nonsense.
It is complete nonsense. Yeah. I think, I think people like Joe Manchin, should appreciate the fact that Republicans are making it clear that I'm giving him plenty of cover to vote with us on this, because this stuff is so toxic, Josh.
Yeah.
It is just beyond comprehension that mainstream Democrats could want this. I really do think it's a far, extreme leftist wing of the party that's pulling them in that direction, and the media are amplifying it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's giving it this apparent sense of momentum that really doesn't exist.
Yeah, no, totally. I want to talk to you about one in particular that you're going to be dealing with this week that I know you've been fighting all the way since the committee level, that we've been talking about on this program since, the first day of Congress. We think it's an abomination. We're talking about S1, HR1, this sort of quote unquote election reform bill, which is basically just a way for Democrats to rig elections from a federal standpoint. You've been fighting this thing. I know we're going to have a vote this week. What's going to happen?
Well, I am certain that Republicans are going to hold the line. The question is, what will happen with a couple of key Democrats? Will they vote will they vote for cloture? Will they vote to send it to the floor to begin to work on it? We'll see. But the last thing that this nation needs is this type of power grab to actually manifest itself in the form of this HR1 or S1. And if anybody tuned into the committee battle that took place last time, I mean, it was rough, and it was something. It was about a 10-hour committee hearing, but it was something I was fighting very hard against, and I made the point very clear. This is the Democrats' attempt yet again to fabricate, manufacture another crisis as a justification to do what they've been wanting to do for some time. They put this same bill through back right after President Trump won. The crisis at that point was the fact that Trump won the election, and that was right to the Democrats. They tried it again in 2019. Now they've used the pandemic to come in and loosen rules at the state level. And when states have gone back to try to make adjustments to try to get back to some sense of normalcy in their election and voter integrity laws, they're pointing to that now as the latest crisis. And it's just going to continue. They're manufacture a crisis every 6 months or so, it seems to me, Josh, until they get their way. But it's not going to happen on my watch.
No, it's absolutely what they're doing. And I wanted to ask you in particular, because I think you have an interesting vantage point from this. As they were doing this and attacking like the Georgia voting law for, just absolutely made up, totally fictional reasons. They then enlisted the help of corporate America, which of course knows absolutely nothing about the intricacies of election law. But you came from private equity. You came from the world of associating with some of these folks. Like, what do you think's going on when you're a CEO of a corporation and you feel like getting involved in probably the most partisan of debates?
I think it was a huge mistake by these corporations to wade into this. What happened, I'm sure, is that the corporations got hammered hard on Twitter and in social media. The corporate marketing department comes to the CEO and says, gosh, the brand is under attack. They should have just stepped back, weathered the storm. They should have actually read the law in Georgia before they came out against it, because they really did wind up looking like, it was clear that they'd done no homework, no due diligence. And, these are corporations that should be capable of, of a lot more, a lot greater than what they came out with, this sort of knee-jerk reaction. And it just shows that, corporations need to stay out of this type of endeavor. If they're not going to step in and really do the due diligence, roll their sleeves up and understand it, they should stay out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I particularly enjoyed Tim Scott and the banking committee talking to all the various banks that weighed in about what it is that they exactly oppose about voter ID and walking through the rest of the provisions. I mean, it's clear that none of these guys had any idea what they're talking about.
No, I think you're exactly right. I just think, again, the marketing department or their outside consultants came to them in a panic. They worried about, some negative commentary on Twitter. Look, they should spend a day or two in the shoes of a person in politics. A person has a conservative viewpoint in politics. That's all you do is get attacked by Twitter. By Twitter.
You build a certain skin, a certain thickness of your skin, for sure.
Right.
Well, one of the interesting components, as we talked about, you're a businessman. You came from a business background. You've kind of gone in and out of public service, or at least an intersection in politics over the years. And I always appreciate it when guys like you get to the Senate, because I've always felt like in Congress at large, basically nobody knows anything about the economy until Michael Lewis writes a book about it, right? So if you get a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about, they can provide some perspective here. And I'm interested in what your sense is of the current state of the economy, the inflation, the prices everybody's paying across this country, and the public policy that, at least in my view, is a direct result or a causation of what we're seeing in inflation across the country.
Yeah, I wish it had been inflation and unemployment both, Josh, because we're subsidizing unemployment right now. When you think about the plus up that the federal government has put onto the unemployment insurance, several states are stepping up and pushing back against that because their employers are making it clear they can't get people to come back to work. Right. At the same time, we put just an unprecedented amount of stimulus into the economy. We've never seen spending like this before. It's bound to have repercussions and impacts. Some aspect of this, granted, is probably the result of dislocations from the pandemic. Supply chains got disrupted. Things got in short supply. Meat packing operations. Lumber processors. Lumber mills, that type of thing. Perhaps there's some sort of supply chain dislocations, but those are going to work themselves out. Right. But what we have are a set of policies that are just inherently inflationary. If you look at what Biden did when he initially came to office, very first thing, let's kill the Keystone XL pipeline. Yeah. Let's kill energy independence here in America. Let's raise prices at the pump, some 50, some 70%. Even though gasoline prices aren't included in the consumer price index, everything that consumers buy has to be transported, right?
Right.
Many things that we buy or use have to be manufactured using energy. All of the Biden administration policies are inherently inflationary in that regard because they're throwing fossil fuel, over the cliff. They're leaping toward, new what they call alternate technologies. Let me tell you what solar panels, that process. You burn fossil fuels in China. Dirty coal plants in China are used to make the solar panels that we have to then buy from China. So they're making us, rather than being energy independent here, we're now dependent upon China again. Yeah. For solar panels, for wind turbines that are manufactured there as well. All of this is inflationary. All of this is weakening us from an economic security standpoint, from a national security standpoint. And it is absolutely the product of people that have no understanding of business and the economy being put in charge. That's what we got right now.
No kidding. I want to ask you about this talk about the infrastructure bill and then perhaps some bipartisanship. Do you worry, as I do, a little bit about, spending another $1 trillion? What are we talking about? One thing, if we're sort of reprogramming some money, but if we're talking about another $1 trillion while we're dealing with all the inflation from the previous 3 acts, I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's a terrible idea, Josh. The pay-fors here are going to be a real dampener to economic growth, the way they're describing it right now. Let's raise the corporate tax rate back to the least competitive in the world again. That was one of the brilliant moves that President Trump put in place, was actually getting us to a point where we could compete again as a nation. And you know what happened after the 2017 Tax Act was passed? Our economy grew at twice the rate of any other major developed economy. It worked. They want to undo all of that, raise the corporate tax rate. Let's raise capital gains tax rates. Let's keep the net effect of that will be not to release any more revenue from any more tax revenue, I should say, because people just won't take the capital gain. They'll outweight the Biden regime. And what that does is it locks down capital that would otherwise be put to productive use. Everything they're doing is going to have a dampening effect on our economic recovery. And at the same time, by pouring all this federal tax dollars in and borrowing more to do it, they're weakening our status as a nation. They're weakening the strength of our currency, and they're inflating our economy to a super hot level. And everybody knows, just what any consumer knows, is that prices for everything are going up. And if we don't stop this spending, we're going to have a real issue on our hands. That's why I think you've seen the Republicans push to at least repurpose the $1 trillion. There's $1 trillion that's still out there that hasn't been spent on the stimulus. Why would we allocate more money? At least repurpose that before you even consider raising taxes.
Yeah, what a great point. Amazing. You've got $1 trillion sitting around in agencies in the federal government. Nobody knows what to do with it, but they don't want to repurpose it. Just stunning.
Yeah, it really is stunning.
I could talk to you about the economy all day, because I think you're just right on all of this, but I also want to jump in on the border. I know you went down there, had a look. I think you agree with our assessment. There's a acute crisis going on.
Indeed. I think it's the most significant, most immediate crisis that we face as a nation right now. The media are trying to blow over this. The Biden administration is very focused on turning our border into a turnstile, basically. All of their efforts are going toward processing rather than securing at our border. And I went down actually to meet with the president of Guatemala, met with his foreign minister. I went and met with the foreign minister of Mexico, and I met with the minister of economy in Mexico. All this, by the way, Josh, a month before Kamala Harris ever got down there. And my objective was to let them know that the United States Senate has the power of the purse. We're not pushovers. This is an urgent crisis. We want it dealt with. We need this to stop. They pushed right back at me. The president of Guatemala, I think you said the same thing to Vice President Harris. This problem is a product of the Biden administration's doing.
Yeah.
The messages that the Biden administration has sent out, even during the election, hey, if I win, we'll treat you better. We'll reunite families. The coyotes use these messages, and they market these messages to the most vulnerable of their population. They begin to assemble children to bring them across the border. Do you think the president of Guatemala is happy about that? Hell no, he's not happy about it. He made it very clear to me. And what it's doing is destroying nuclear families in their country. It's taking the most productive folks from their workforce and subjecting them to a lot of danger. More than half the people that make these treks wind up becoming victims of crime themselves. These are not Boy Scouts they're dealing with, I can tell you, Josh.
Yeah.
These cartels, rough. So these people are getting involved in drug trafficking, human trafficking, or some other type of crime being perpetrated upon them. So the leadership south of the border is not happy with what's happening here, and they basically describe a giant magnet that's been created by this administration, creating these messages of come. They hear things like $15 an hour minimum wage, which didn't happen, but the coyotes market that. $1,400 checks, free money for illegal immigrants, free health care, come get your COVID vaccine. All of this is going right into the marketing, again, to the most vulnerable of their population. These people are giving their life savings over to these coyotes and again, risking their lives to make a very treacherous journey. So the Guatemalans, the Mexicans, very unhappy about this. Mexico went a step further, though. What this has done is this has accelerated China's presence in their country, because fentanyl traffic is way up. China's shipping the precursors of fentanyl, the components. They're sending their technicians into Mexico to teach the cartels how to manufacture illicit drugs with fentanyl. And the rate of fentanyl moving across the border is accelerated dramatically. I was just talking with Tennessee sheriffs over the weekend, and what they continually tell me is they continue to see a rise in the number of overdoses and the number of deaths from this illegal fentanyl. Also methamphetamine, huge problem in our state. Where is it coming from? South of the border. The border is now overwhelmed. Our Border Patrol agents are completely overwhelmed with all of the human migration that's coming across. They're overwhelmed with what the coyotes are dumping upon them, if you will, the families, the children, etc. And what's happening is the cartels are running along the other way and pushing more and more drugs across the border.
You know, you wonder what you can do at a federal level. We were talking to Governor Abbott of Texas last week on the program, and he was talking about they're actually going to start building the wall in Texas again. They're going to resume building of the wall.
I applaud what Greg's doing there.
Yeah, but you look at, I mean, that kind of innovative thinking is obviously necessary. But from a federal level, like, what can you do to force their hand here? I mean, they've deliberately chosen basically to open our borders.
Yeah, and they've endangered everyone along, every border town in Texas is endangered because they're being overrun. I've been down there, talked with ranchers, that sort of, they do not want this sort of trespassing to take place.
Right.
Federal government's inviting it. But I warned from the very beginning, every town in America is going to become a border town if we don't do something about this. It's happening right now in my home state, Josh. Look at what's happening in Chattanooga, Tennessee. They've been caught. 4 private planes coming in the stealth of night after midnight, bringing in these unaccompanied minors. One of my friends was on a commercial flight from Dallas into Chattanooga, and there were a dozen of these unaccompanied children. He talked with the escort. A bilingual man was accompanying them as their chaperone. He asked them, "What are you doing with them?" He said, "I'm taking them to a shelter in Chattanooga." Well, we can't get any information, or how are we going to handle this in our school system? How are our hospitals going to handle it? Will they be overwhelmed like they've been before? What about law enforcement? They need to know how to resource this. We're getting no information from the federal government. And Senator Blackburn and I have pushed back very hard. We've demanded information. We've demanded reports. We're demanding results. And the federal government is doing everything they can to obfuscate this.
Man, it's unbelievable. Well, I know you're going to keep on this and keep up the good work, because boy, oh boy, do we need some federal help here, because this administration is just an abject disaster. I mean, I don't even think they want to talk about it.
Yeah. They want it to go away. They want this, transformation of America to take place without the benefit of any sort of media spotlight, without the public knowing. And again, they are disclosing as little as possible as they go about this process. I mean, they took policies that President Trump had put in place, hard-fought policies, Josh. I mean, the migrant protection protocols, the so-called state in Mexico, that wasn't easy to execute.
No.
But Trump got that in place, and that brought illegal border crossings to almost a complete standstill. Now they've gone back to catch and release, and you see the flood. We're breaking new records every month in terms of the number of people coming across our border, and this is just it's just terrible. And when the byproduct of that, again, being human trafficking and drug trafficking, they're killing our youth here in America, and the coyotes and the drug cartels are profiting all the way to the bank.
Yeah, it's a sad story. Last thing before I get to our 3 questions, you're former ambassador. You've got a very sort of unique perspective at looking at things like the G7 that went on last week and the president's meeting with Putin. What's your takeaway from all that?
Well, I've had as ambassador, I've had the opportunity to meet Putin too. These are tough players. Tough players. Suga, tough players. The European, the European leadership. Again, they're all delighted to see someone like Joe Biden come back in, someone who wants to move in the direction of Europe, someone who wants to, again, lead from behind and subjugate America's interests to those of the European nations. This is definitely a testament to weakness of this administration. The reason that they were unhappy with President Trump is President Trump held their feet to the fire.
Yeah.
And America benefits by having our allies stand strong. We don't benefit from allies that won't pay their fair share in NATO. We don't benefit from freeloading allies. We don't benefit from allies that try to take advantage of us in trade situations. That's precisely what they like to do. And if you look at who's in the middle of the negotiations with Iran right now on re-entering the JCPOA, it's Russia, it's China, it's Britain, France, Germany. It's not our allies in the Middle East. They're the one who are in existential danger, right? Yeah. They don't want this to happen. So instead, who's brokering this deal? The Europeans, the Russians, the Chinese. They want it to happen because they want to see, trade relations open up. They want to be able to deal with Iran again. And, Russia and China, well, They love to see America weaken relative to Iran also. That's just another front that we have to defend. The Biden administration is taking the bait at every turn, weakening America. If you look at the relationship with Russia, look, we gave up the START treaty right away. We extended that, got nothing in exchange for it. Then Nord Stream 2, there was a lot of effort into stopping that. And they have allowed that pipeline to go through. That's going to, again, make Europe, who we're charged to protect through NATO, by the way.
Right.
It's going to make Europe more vulnerable to Vladimir Putin. We're charged to protect NATO against Russia, against the former USSR under NATO. And here we are, making them even more vulnerable. So the policies are exactly the opposite of what we need to be doing right now. They're weakening America. When they talk about Iran, I can tell you, I went over to Israel just a couple of weeks ago to make the point loud and clear that America does stand with Israel.
Yeah.
And despite these, extreme leftist voices that again are amplified by the media, Democrats, independents, and Republicans here in my home state of Tennessee, but across the nation, stand with Israel. They need to hear that.
Yeah.
Because the media messaging is quite different, and I think quite disturbing to our allies like Israel.
Yeah, 100% agreement on that, Senator. I got 3 big questions that all of our listeners tune into. Okay, this is really revealing stuff. So, the first one is your last meal on Earth. What would it be?
That is easy, Josh. I'd be back at the restaurant that my dad used to take me when I was a kid, that I still take my kids to today. It's called Brown's Diner, best cheeseburger in Nashville. We've gone around the world, and my kids always use that as the basis of comparison. Was the cheeseburger as good as Brown's? Inevitably, it never is. So I'd be having a cheeseburger, hopefully with my grandkids. I hope I live that long, Josh.
I love that.
That I'd be able to have a cheeseburger at Brown's with my grandchildren. So.
That is prescriptive. I like that, Senator. That's very good. All right, second question. If you never got into politics at all, right? Let's just say public service in general. If you never got into it and it didn't interest you, what would you be doing with your life?
When I was a kid, I was I grew up in a small town without a lot, patriotic boy, Eagle Scout. I worked my way through college. I was the first boy to graduate college, but the place I wanted to go to college was the United States Naval Academy. From the time I was 14, I dreamed of doing that, going into the Navy. And I got to the point of having my physical for the Naval Academy, and I found out I'm colorblind.
Huh.
And so I couldn't go. I couldn't do it. I couldn't serve. And I wound up having a career I could only say God's blessed me beyond my imagination in business, a wonderful family that I'm not complaining, but if I ever had the chance to do something different, it would have been to have a chance to serve. I would have truly enjoyed doing that, something I always missed the opportunity to do. And frankly, having the chance to come back and do public service in another way has been my way of sort of filling that interest. So, that might be a path, but if that were unavailable to me tomorrow, I'd be right back in business. I love business. I love winning.
Yeah.
And, that's the American capitalist way that's propelled our nation to be far stronger than any other.
Yeah, well, that's a good segue to our third question, because that hones in on what motivates Senator Bill Hagerty more, the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat?
I think I'd answer like any business person, Josh. Failure is never an option. Failure is never an option. It's the thrill of victory. We are always pushing to win. I told the team when I was leaving Japan to come back here, people were wishing me luck, and I let them know I'm not coming back to lose. I'm just coming back to win. And that's the attitude that I think it takes to succeed here. That's the attitude I've got to have every morning when I wake up to go and fight the fight that we're taking on every day here in the United States Senate.
Yeah, well, for all my colleagues at Cavalry who are happy to help out and work on that campaign, you did a hell of a job. And like I said, just a hair under 30 points. You barely squeaked by. Senator Haggerty, thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Certainly, Josh. Great to be with you. Bye-bye.
So I think, again, this showcases to me just a high level of talent that we've got in this party. This is a guy who just arrived on the scene 5 months ago. He knows deeply what's going on. He's got a serious approach to all of this. He's one of the few people, I think, who have a command of the international economy to know basically what we're doing to ourselves with terrible trade policies and terrible foreign policy. And I got a lot out of that. I thought it was a good interview.
Absolute banger, and that keeps the spree going. Like, our listener numbers keep going up. The folks, the quality of the interviews we're getting, and hopefully soon enough we got another big one to announce. But
we've got them all. I mean, they're going to keep getting big. You should see the requests that we have in the inbox right now.
It's amazing, And thanks again to the listeners. Tell your friends, tell everybody subscribe, leave that 5-star review. We love you all and we appreciate it. So until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Thursday. Stay ruthless.